What's going on, everybody? The Cowboys have a unique opportunity, not only for this week, but for the rest of the season, to do some things that could be beneficial for their team in the future. I think the question is will they do it? We have an opportunity. Time to take full advantage. Let's talk about it right here on Cowboy Spit.
Here we go! Yeah, here we go! Wait, take Cowboys.
Throws back of the end zone. There's
What's going on, everybody? Cowboy C3 coming to you once again. Cowboys, again, they have this unique opportunity, and we'll talk about that, in a second. Cowboys travel to Washington this week to play the very good Washington Commanders, led by their old defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn. We'll talk about them more Saturday as we break down, keys to the game, what the Cowboys can do offensively and defensively. We'll talk more about, Washington today, and then we'll talk about, what the Cowboys are going through and what they can kind of do, not necessarily to even overcome it. It's just something that they can do to benefit from this season that has not been beneficial to them whatsoever. So Washington comes in tied for first place in the division. Excuse me, they're at second place in the division, but the Eagles are in first place, which I can't stand it. But Washington is a team that last year they weren't necessarily in the same position as the Cowboys are, but they were pretty bad. And they had some situations that were going on in their front office where, we talk about the Cowboys front office on here, sometimes, and how they may not be the best situation, especially for a football team to be in. And it's all kind of predicated by what the front office is doing. Well, the Commanders were going through a totally different thing. Their owner was, flat out breaking the law. He was doing some things that he had no business doing whatsoever in the front office. And, he got himself into some legal trouble and where he was forced to sell the team. New ownership comes in, hires a new general manager. They in turn turn around and hire Dan Quinn as their head coach, who before he became the Cowboys defensive coordinator, was a Super Bowl, not a Super Bowl winning coach, but he took the Atlanta Falcons to the Super Bowl. And in one of the major breakdowns in NFL history, they lost the game that they were winning 28-3 at the half. So Dan Quinn can coach. He can coach a football team. He can coach a defense. He can do all kinds of things. And Washington took advantage of that, hired him as the head coach. He went in, took Joe Witt from the Cowboys, tried to take Al Harris. He couldn't do that, but he took some coaches, from the Cowboys. He also took a lot of Cowboy players, and he put together this team, man, and they're pretty good. They're led by Jaden Daniels, rookie quarterback, Heisman Trophy winner last year. We all knew he was pretty good, just didn't know how he was sustained in the NFL, and he's doing a really good job. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They play pretty solid defense. Not that high ranked, and we'll talk about that more again on Saturday. But what they are is it's a Dan Quinn defense, risk reward, high risk, high reward. Sometimes it bites them in the butt, but a lot of times they create turnovers, and that's what they're trying to do is create some turnovers, get the offense back on the field, and score some points. High-powered offense, very high-powered offense. Scary Terry McLaurin at wide receiver. That combination between him and Jaden Daniels has become one of the best combinations in the NFL. And it is showing this year, and it's showing completely. And it's just been, to be honest, man, it's been fun to watch. I've watched them play a few times. It kind of hurts my feelings because I feel like Dan Quinn maybe should have been the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, but it is what it is. So the Cowboys have gotten themselves into a situation now where there are some things that they probably can't prevent anymore from happening. And what I mean by that is you are forced to be in a spot where you're going to have to play these younger players. Like you're going to have to play them. And I can show you why real fast. If you take a look at this injury report, it's lengthy, and there's some key players to this team that are dealing with some injuries that could be pretty detrimental, not only to the season, but for some, maybe their career. So Marquise Bell is out with a shoulder injury. He reached back on the tackle towards the end of the game. Shoulder looked like it may have come out of place, and I doubt that he plays. For the first time all season, Deron Bland was a full participant in practice. So, the injury report is lengthy, but there is one bright spot in it. Deron Bland looks like he may be able to go this week. We'll see. Don't really know how that's going to go, but, only time will tell, and not a lot of time is going to tell it. Brandon Cooks, welcome him back to practice this week. He's limited in practice with the infection in the knee. Guess everything is back to normal, and he's limited participant. Probably may not play this week, but I would look for him to play definitely on Thanksgiving Day. Chume Doba with the toe, he was a full participant. Jake Ferguson with the concussion did not participate. Probably wouldn't look for him to play. Tyler Guyton with the shoulder was a full participant. Hopefully he's ready to play. Eric Kendricks, linebacker, with the shoulder, limited participant. Marshawn Nealon, welcome him back to the practice field. Defensive end with his knee, I think he had a small tear in his knee, was limited participant. CeeDee Lamb with the back and the foot, limited participant. Jordan Lewis, welcome him back from the concussion, limited participant. Hunter Lemke with the calf, still didn't practice. This is where it gets funny. Zach Martin with the ankle and the shoulder did not participate. Read where he's probably not going to play, and he may not play for an extended period of time. Tyler Guyton, ankle, knee, said that he has a high ankle sprain, did not participate in practice today. Micah Parsons had an ankle, a high ankle sprain earlier this year in the season. He just came back from that, but he was out for 6 weeks. So that'll kind of give you an idea about Tyler Guyton. Maybe his isn't as bad as Micah Parsons. I hope it's not, but because that's your one bright spot on the offensive line. As Zach Martin has not had his normal season, but his leadership is always on the field. It's always there. He's been a mainstay on this offensive line for going on 12 years. I'm hoping that the career doesn't end like this, with an injury halfway through a season that's like this. And Zach Martin is one of those guys that's the consummate professional. He's there every day, great guy, never getting in any trouble, always there for the team. This is why these are the guys that Michael Parsons was talking about in the interview where he was, misunderstood or misquoted or whatever you want to say it about the things he said about Mike McCarthy. But he is one of the main leaders of this football team, and you don't want to see him go out like this. But with the way that it's gone this season and the way that it looks like he's been ailing, and just the way he's been moving this season, you can tell that something's bothering him. I'm not so sure that they won't shut him down. And if they do shut him down, it could be the end of a very, great career here for the Dallas Cowboys. It'll probably end up with him being in the Hall of Fame at some point in time. Excellent guard. Probably been the best guard. Probably was the best, guard in the NFL for, 6-7 years. Excellent football player. Tyler Guyton is like the guy that's going to take Zach Martin's place. And to see him get hurt, especially on consecutive plays, that was pretty tough. But there's some opportunities in this, and we can talk about that for just a second. The opportunity that these guys have is a tremendous one. And what I mean by that is you have the golden opportunity to play some of these younger players that are in your organization. Heard an interview from Jerry on Monday morning, and he was just, regular conversation that happens on the radio show here in Dallas. And he was asked, could we look forward to seeing Trey Lance play? And I think Trey Lance is like the one player on this team that a lot of Cowboy fans have a lot of interest in seeing. And the reason being is because we went through a lot to get him. You fourth round pick, it seemed like the majority of the running backs, which is something that this team desperately needs, went in the fourth round. So, this is your fourth round pick. It's just that elevated, and highlighted, the fourth round pick went on Trey Lance, on a guy that hasn't even been on the active roster for the majority of the season. Well, now he is. And Cooper Rush went out last week, and he did not have a bad game. He didn't have a bad game at all, but he didn't have a good one. He didn't by any stretch of the imagination have a good one. Passed for 352 yards, but it took him 53 attempts to get it. It just wasn't a good night for the Cowboys offense in general. One of the reasons that it wasn't a good night is because Houston applied pressure to the quarterback on several occasions, a lot of occasions. And Cooper Rush, and we talked about this, in the keys to the game before the Houston game, Cooper Rush is not that mobile. And with the depleted offensive line, and now you're two starters, you only have one starter left on the offensive line, and that starter has probably played the worst out of anybody on the offensive line, and right guard Terrence Steele. You have the distinct opportunity to play some of these younger players and see what they hold, because this is a game where you are going to get a top-of-the-line opponent. You're going to throw them into a big fire, and you're going to give them an opportunity to play against a top-notch NFL football team, and you're going to really see what they're made of, and that's going to help you make some decisions for next year. Jerry said that they would start the experience at quarterback, and I have my opinion about that. The way that he said it was like that we want to start our experience at quarterback because he gives us the best chance to win. And of course, every single football game you go out, you want to win the football game. But if it gets to be a point like in the last game where, the punter threw more passes than Trey Lance did, that's a situation where you have the golden opportunity to get these players some experience. The only way that these players that are sitting on the bench, they're there just in case of an emergency, and in some cases this is an emergency. Give them the opportunity to gain the experience that's necessary for them to be successful in NFL, so you can see what you got. That's the most important thing right now, is just see what you got for the future. If Cooper Rush is going to walk at the end of this season and go wherever he's going to go, or do whatever he's going to do, you're going to allow him to walk. You got Trey Lance there. You need to see what's going to happen. If something, Dak's going to be here for at least 4 more seasons or 3 more seasons after this. If you're going to see what you got, man, behind Dak, Dak could get hurt again. He's been hurt before. He's had some serious injuries before. It always seems like when Dak gets hurt, it's like it's something weird. You know what I mean? Like it's something serious. Smacked his helmet on who did they play when he broke his thumb? I can't remember who they were playing when he broke his thumb, but he smacked his helmet off the top of somebody, smacked his thumb on top of somebody's helmet, broke his thumb, and was out for 5 weeks. Severely broke his ankle against the Giants in 2020, and was out for the season. This year he's running and tears the hamstring off the bone, and now he's going to be out for the season. Has season-ending surgery, so it's never anything minor with this dude. It's always something major. So you need to see what you have. Like, this is your 4th round pick this season. You need to see what you got. And the one way to kind of combat a weak offensive line, a depleted offensive line, an offensive line that hasn't blocked for you well, is with mobility. And Trey Lance gives you that mobility. Deuce Vaughn is obviously not going to get a whole bunch of carries in the season. They have some reservations about him, and it's probably because of his size, because he has a problem getting to the second level because of his size. Now is an excellent opportunity for him to go in and you can see what kind of back you have in Deuce Vaughn. Excellent opportunity. Excellent opportunity to see what these guys like Ryan Flanoy, receivers can do. Excellent time to see what Brevin Spann-Ford can do. Excellent time to see what some of these young corners can do. You've already seen what Kalen Carson can do. He's not bad, but he's not good. And the only way for him to get better is just gain this experience. Sure, Deron Bland is coming back. Jordan Lewis is probably going to be out this week. He's coming back from the concussion. He's still got to make it through the concussion protocol. But put Kalen Carson in the slot and just let him run around and just see what happens. You're going to go against a formidable opponent. You're going to go against an opponent that is, second in the division, very well could end first in the division, and they could very well be a Super Bowl contender. Maybe not this year. It could be this year, but maybe not. But for years to come, this is going to be an opponent that's going to be quality for you in this division for a couple of years, right? You need to see what you got. You need to see what you can play with. You need to see what you need to release. And there's so many opportunities that the Cowboys have just because this season. Let's just be honest. They're not going to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? I think we all know that. They're not going to the playoffs. They'll be lucky if they win 2 or 3 more football games. If they win 2 or 3 more football games, that would be a fantastic story, a fantastic end to this season. I think they have a distinct opportunity, a distinct chance to beat maybe the Giants on Thanksgiving and possibly Carolina. But since Andy Dalton got hurt and Bryce Young was entered back into the lineup, they've been playing pretty good. They have been. They've looked pretty good. And they've been running the football. They've been running the football well. And the Cowboys can't defend the run too well. Great opportunity to see what these linebackers can do. This is from now at this point on, Mozzie Smith is playing for his roster spot on the Cowboys. I truly believe that. He'll start probably every game, and he'll be out there for the majority of the game, and he is literally playing to see if he's going to be on this roster next year or not. Sure, first-round pick. Our first-round picks, I saw a mock draft where somebody drafted a defensive interior lineman from Michigan in a mock draft for the Cowboys. And I responded real fast, defensive linemen, players in general for the Cowboys, players in general from Michigan that come to the Cowboys just don't do well. They don't. Jordan Lewis is probably the only exception to that rule or to that fact. Taco Charlton did not work. Mozzie Smith is not working. Luke Schoonmaker, last week was probably the best game he's had here in 2 years. It just hasn't worked for Dallas with Michigan players. Don't know what it is because Michigan players are successful in other places. But, it just is what it is. Let these players have an opportunity to play now, right? Because they're not going to get that opportunity next year. Hopefully we come in and revamp this roster. And then, some of these guys that are playing, right now and they're starting, they're not going to have roster spots next year. Probably not. And it's probably going to be a lot of people. This is the opportunity to put these youngsters in. Put your Bryce Hoffmans in. Put your TJ Basses in. And let them play. Just let them play. You see what you got. Just like in training camp. This is live game situation. This is the golden opportunity to gain that experience that they desperately need to see if they're going to have a spot on this roster or on other rosters in the NFL. They could become trade bait. You could have somebody come in here and do a really good job, and you're like, okay, well, I'm willing to trade you a 4th-round pick for this guy or a 5th-round pick for this guy. You know what I'm saying? He came in, he put on some quality film. When the roster was depleted, he got an opportunity, put quality film in. Here you go. This guy can be good for you. Jonathan Mingo, he would be my number 2 receiver for the rest of the season. I need to see what I got for next year's 4th-round pick. I need to see that. You know what I'm saying? Because this is now the second year in a row where you don't have a 4th-round pick for a player that you need to play. Excellent opportunity for Trey Lance to play. Excellent opportunity for Jonathan Mingo to learn on the fly. And just see what you got. See what you got. These opportunities don't come often. They really don't. It's a next man up league always, right? But there's not very many examples where it seems like the complete roster is just depleted. Your offensive line is gone. You haven't had your defensive ends. You finally get one back in practice in Marshawn Nealon, who was playing well before he got hurt. You still haven't seen DeMarcus Lawrence. Deron Bland is just getting on the practice field in week 12. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is an opportunity that you can't pass up. And I hope they don't pass it up. I really do. This is an opportunity for Mike McCarthy as well. You got a depleted football team. It hasn't gone well. Get these young players out there, maybe turn some things around, steal some wins or two. You know what I mean? And maybe you'll have a spot somewhere. If it's not here, somewhere next year. I just don't think they're going to renew his contract. I don't think they will. It's kind of hard. You have a good past. You know, you had a bad season in 2020 when you first came onto the football team as the head coach. But then you ripped off 3 12-5 seasons in a row. Sure, playoff success wasn't great. We've talked about on here why I think it wasn't great. And then you come into this season, roster wasn't good to begin with. Things have not gone your way. A lot of players have gotten hurt. But finish this thing out, you know, just as strong as you possibly can. You know, play these youngsters, make some evaluations for the football team. There is an opportunity that he could come back. I've said it a couple of times, and you know, like, Jerry's getting older, and I really don't think that he doesn't have the energy to keep building these relationships with these coaches that come in here and people accepting the fact that he wants to be in charge of everything. Mike McCarthy has already accepted that. If it is going to be a new coach next year, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the coaching staff right now or as a player, you know, such as, you know, he talked about, he went on and on about Jason Witten, you know, in an interview last week about how he could see him as an excellent, you know, head coach, you know, in the NFL. And Jason Witten knows how this organization works. He knows exactly the structure, you know, the hierarchy of the team, and he knows what to expect as soon as he comes here into the locker room. If that's something that he decides that he wants to do. I think that, you know, if he shows interest in the opportunity, I think that, you know, he would definitely have the opportunity here to be the head coach of the Cowboys. And I wouldn't be mad at that. You know, former player, knows how the organization works, knows what it takes to win. You know, I don't think it would be a bad look. I think that he would be a person that would accept the fact that Jerry's probably going to choose the coaching staff for him too. I think he would be acceptive of that. You know, somebody like Dion, you know, in which that's been, you know, rumbling all around. You know, even Stephen A. Smith was talking about hiring Deion Sanders as the head coach here and draft Shador in the first round, which would be kind of crazy, right? You got a $60 million quarterback, and then you draft a rookie in the first round. That would be kind of nuts. And then you make his daddy the head coach. That would be crazy as hell. But I don't think Dion would ever be interested in coming here because Dion would want control. He would want control of the situation. He would want to pick his own coaching staff, and his coaching staff that would come in here would be just like the coaching staff he has in Colorado. It would be flamboyant, and it would be loud, and it would be a party on the sideline every single Sunday. I guarantee you that. And I just don't think Jerry is ready for that type of shit. I just don't. That is something that he is not interested in whatsoever. It's great, you know, Dion can come in and sit in the coach's box, you know what I'm saying? Excuse me, in the owner's box and sit up there, you know, and they can, you know, sip on champagne and eat bonbons all day. You know what I'm saying? But as far as you taking control of this football team from me, nah, that ain't gonna happen. I just don't see that happening. So you got the Commanders on Sunday. Once again, they're a really good football team. They do a lot of things well. They run the ball extremely well. They run with their quarterback extremely well. One of the main concerns about one of the main concerns about Washington and letting Jaden Daniels come in and take control, I think, was Jaden Daniels' stature. He's a tall guy. He's probably 6'3", 6'4", but he probably only weighs about 210 pounds. Tall, very skinny, super athletic. I think we saw that at LSU last year. When he was at Arizona State, that relationship at Arizona State didn't end well. But if you ever watched him play, you knew he was pretty special. And then when he got to LSU and he got around, a legitimate D1 football team, not saying that Arizona's not a legitimate D1 football team, but LSU is LSU, right? This year, I bet you they wish they had Jaden Daniels because they got a really good football team. It's just they're kind of struggling at the quarterback position. But when he got to LSU, it seemed like his game just elevated, right? And when he got to Washington, people were like, he is not going to be able to do the things that he did in college and the NFL. And he's doing it. He is absolutely doing it. They play good defense. They don't play great defense, but they play good defense. There will be some opportunities that the Cowboys will have. I think that those opportunities come with – I think a lot of those opportunities will come if you have Trey Lance at quarterback. They can be run on. That's for sure. And the Cowboys have not had success running the football, but the Commanders can be run on. That they can do. They defend the pass, pretty well. They're not terrible against it. They'll struggle with CeeDee Lamb as long as you can get him the football. But I think Cooper Rush gives you the best opportunity to get CeeDee Lamb the football. So it's kind of a catch-22. What you gonna do with it? Not saying that I don't think Trey Lance can get him the ball. Like I said before, in a previous episode, I just don't know if the organization trusts Trey Lance to put the ball in the air 25, 30 times in a football game, and knowing that it's probably going to lead to a couple of turnovers if they do. So Saturday, we'll talk more about matchups and what the Commanders do well, right, and what they don't do well, and how the Cowboys can kind of exploit some of the things that they don't do well, and score some points. The thing that is really, really, really not bad, but it could be detrimental to the Cowboys' success against the Commanders is, one, Dallas has not dealt with mobile quarterbacks well. They haven't dealt with mobile quarterbacks well in a long time. Two, they have a power running game that is very, very good and very, very physical. And the Cowboys haven't handled that well this year either. And off of play action or off of straight passes, Jaden Daniels is accurate. He puts the ball on the money, and his intermediate/deep game is deadly. Deadly. And the Cowboys haven't handled that well either. They have not done a good job keeping the speed in front of them. They didn't do a bad job with that against the Texans is because they manufactured pressure with Overshawn, and Carl Lawson had a pretty good game as well. And they were in the game, for 3.5 quarters up until the Cooper Rush fumble and the defensive touchdown. So the Commanders will give the Cowboys some opportunities to do some things. However, it's going to be a tough task. This is going to be a tough game. This is one of those games where, get back is in order again. Kind of beat up on Washington these last couple of years, and they're looking forward to it. And Dan Quinn is going up against his old team. He wants to show Jerry why he should have been the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. But you let me go to a division rival, and now I'm going to make you pay the price for it. So that's what we're looking at. Saturday, we'll come on here Saturday afternoon. Go through the keys to victory, go through what the Commanders do well, go again, talk about what they don't do well, talk about how the Cowboys, like I said, can exploit a little bit of it. And we'll give a game prediction, we'll give some keys to victory, and and we'll have our normal Saturday show. Sunday, right after the game. It's the early game, starts at noon. Right after the game, we'll go live again. We'll talk about this game, talk about, hopefully we'll talk about a Cowboy victory. But like I said, it's going to be a tough task. Like, this one ain't going to be easy at all. All right, y'all. Cowboy C3, division rivalry, got an opportunity to do some special things with this roster, with these young players. Hopefully we'll give them an opportunity. All right, we'll talk more about it on Saturday. And then we'll talk about the game itself after the game on Sunday. All right. See you guys Saturday afternoon. Cowboy C3. You guys have a great rest of your evening, great rest of your week. And Have a good one, man. We'll see y'all soon. DCFL. All right, holla.